Okay, let's jump into this deep dive. Today, we're spending time with the text of Psalms, specifically digging into chapter 77.
Yeah. And it really throws you right into a very intense human experience from the start.
It absolutely does. The voice here is just crying out, isn't it? Desperate for help, desperate to be heard by God.
hmm That line, I cried out to God for help. I cried out to God to hear me. You feel that intensity immediately, no holding back.
And it's clearly not just a quick prayer. This distress feels really deep, prolonged.
Right. The speaker says, when I was in distress, I sought the Lord. And then this image. At night, I stretched out untiring hands. It sounds exhausting.
Literally sleepless, yeah. And that part about the soul refusing comfort, that's powerful, like beyond simple reassurance.
Absolutely. And that state, that overwhelming trouble, it continues. Verse 3 mentions groaning, the spirit growing faint.
And being too troubled to speak, imagine that. The pain is so deep it actually stops you from even talking about it.
Exactly. And you mentioned sleeplessness, that line, you kept my eyes from
Yeah.
closing. It just perfectly captures the physical side of this inner turmoil. It affects everything.
So stuck in that awful present moment, the mind then goes back, right, to the past.
Yeah, it does. Remembering former days, years of long ago, even thinking about songs in the night.
You'd think maybe that remembering would bring some relief, some comfort,
Yeah.
but here, maybe not.
It seems to spark something else. It triggers this profound wrestling, not just with this situation, but with God himself.
Ah, okay. So remembering the past highlights the contrast with the really painful present.
Precisely. And that contrast leads straight into these incredibly raw, challenging questions
Mm.
directed right at God.
And the psalm just lists them out, doesn't it? One after
Mhm.
another.
Yes, will the Lord reject forever? Will he never show his favor again? It goes on, has his unfailing love vanished?
Has his promise failed for all time?
Yeah.
Has God forgotten to be merciful?
Has he in anger withheld his compassion? These aren't like polite theological inquiries. They're coming from deep suffering and doubt.
It feels so honest. I think anyone who's been through really hard times can relate to that kind of questioning.
For sure. But importantly, the song doesn't just stay there wallowing in the questions. There's a shift.
A turning point.
Yes, a conscious choice. The speaker actually says, to this I will appeal. The years of the right hand of the Most High.
Uh-huh.
It's deliberate.
So a decision to stop focusing only on the present pain and the current questions.
And to intentionally remember God's power, his actions in the past. I will remember the deeds of the Lord. Yes, I will remember your miracles of long ago.
I will meditate. Consider all your mighty deeds. It sounds like an active discipline, not just passive reminiscing.
Exactly. It's an act of will, almost.
So what happens when they make that shift? How does remembering change things?
Well, the focus moves from the personal pain, the inward spiral, back to the greatness and nature of God.
Ah, so the perspective widens.
Right. Immediately after deciding to remember, the declaration comes. Your ways, O God, are holy. And then that rhetorical question, what God is so great as our God?
So remembering God's past actions brings his power and holiness back into focus.
Yes, his power, his holiness, his history of working miracles. It reframes the present struggle.
And the psalm then gives those huge dramatic examples, especially from the Exodus story, the Red Sea.
Incredible imagery there. The water saw you, O God. The water saw you and writhed. The very depths were convulsed, like nature itself reacting to God.
Wow. And the storm imagery too, clouds, thunder, lightning, the earth trembling.
It's a powerful reminder, isn't it? The God being questioned in this personal darkness is the same God who commands creation, who intervenes so dramatically in history.
And then it brings it right down to personal guidance amidst that power. You led your people like a flock by the hand of Moses and Aaron.
Right. So you have this cosmic power, but also this tender, shepherd-like leading.
So looking at the whole journey in the psalm, it starts in deep trouble, moves through that intense questioning.
And finds a kind of resolution, or at least stability, not necessarily by the circumstances changing instantly, but through this deliberate act of remembering God's character and deeds.
It suggests a path, maybe? Through distress, radical honesty about the pain combined with remembering.
I think that's a great way to put it. That act of remembering seems to recenter the person on God's greatness, even when comfort feels impossible or far away.
It anchors you, perhaps, in something bigger than the immediate feeling.
Mm-hmm. In the historical reality of God's faithfulness and power, even when the present feels chaotic.
Which brings us to that really thought-provoking line near the end about the Red Sea crossing. Your path led through the sea, your way through the mighty waters, though your footprints were not seen.
Yeah, that's a striking image.
So, a final thought for you listening. What might that mean for us? That God's guidance, his action in your life, might be happening right now, leading you through deep waters, even if you can't see any obvious signs, any clear footprints, something to really chew on.